Welcome to The Purpose Effect, the space where we get honest, we get intentional, and we get aligned with the life God designed for us. I am your host, Alesha, on Mondays, and my amazing friend David on Wednesdays, and we do it together on Fridays. Our mission is simple. We want to help you stop floating through life and to start living with purpose, clarity, and action. Hello, sweet friend. How are you, David?
I am good. Things are good. It has
Good.
been a week of lots of stuff going on, busy as it were.
Life is always an adventure.
Yeah. And that plays into right where we're going. So I did a little thing that kind of leaned into anxiety on Wednesday. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that and get your input on this thing. And I'm going to start with the definition, as I know it, of the difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is real. I have a knife. I am working with it. I could cut myself with this knife. This is fear. This is real. It's healthy. It's a natural response. Anxiety is worrying about cutting myself with the knife that's out in the shop in a drawer, right? So as I'm looking at statistics, I know how we all love statistics. 28% of the people in our society between the ages of 16 and 19 have diagnosed, 28%, 16 to 29-year-olds diagnosed anxiety that should be treated, treatable anxiety. People of the ages, all people in the study over the age of 70 are 5%.
Wow. Wow.
We have somehow or another taught our young people to be anxious, to fear things that are not real.
Wow. It's such an interesting thing. I'm glad that we're talking about anxiety because it's something that I have actually struggled with a lot over the years. I mean, I look at, and I've shared this story. I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast, but I remember when I worked in admissions at a university and I had to make phone calls. And I'll tell you, I would have fear and anxiety. And I guess more how I would have anxiety over making these stupid phone calls. Not because something crazy was, I just like literally my body, I just couldn't think it would stop me. It was the craziest thing. And it would take me almost the entire day to actually make a phone call. At that point, I remember so vividly, I could only call my mom and my husband really without having stress, without feeling anxiety. It was the weirdest thing. And now I've worked through it a lot, but it still actually rears its ugly head. In fact, silly as this sounds. So this is, and I would love to hear what they experience with anxiety. But for me, yesterday, I had to go and drop off my daughter's singlet for wrestling at a place. And I'm driving around and I see this place is on Main Street. And where I would have to park, I would have to walk right out by Main Street and everybody would see me. Now, this is how irrational anxiety can get. I did not want to park my car and walk there for people to see me. And that's silly because I'm like a very outgoing person. But so what did I do? Here's what I'm learning this stuff. I actually drove around the block and I went back and I said, screw this, I'm doing it. And I got out and I walked in. But for me, I would say it's not always the thoughts aren't even there. It's just this irrational, oh, I can't do it. My heart rate skyrockets. My palms will get sweaty. And it sounds silly, but I don't know. I've had to work a lot through anxiety over the years.
So let's take that exact situation apart and create one that should be fearful and one that you can look at and go, I'm going to drive around the block. I'm going to take my parking place. And I'm going to go about my day. So you go into one of the neighborhoods where I build houses, and there's some guys standing on the street corner, and they're all dressed in the same color things with their bandanas, giant white man, cowboy hat, probably not anxiety, probably fear, good, healthy dose of fear that I should probably go park somewhere else for the time being. Anxiety is the anticipation that something negative is going to happen.
Yeah.
And now, if your situational anxiety is based on fact, this is where it gets hedgy, right? Because I know the neighborhood is unsafe at times. So now, as I go into this situation, am I fearful to protect myself, or do I have anxiety because it's a known dangerous place? So for me at that point, now it's about, okay, I'm going to act in a cautious fashion because my fear, my rational
Yeah.
reasoning says, okay, look where you park. Pay attention to who's on the streets in these neighborhoods. Don't, I have a habit of going for walks when I talk on the phone. There's some neighborhoods I should probably not walk
Yeah.
personally at certain times a day. Other times a day, it's fine. I need to use critical thinking and let it be, use the tool that God has given us, that's fight or flight.
Yeah.
Fear, this is a tool,
Yeah.
but the anxiety is worrying so much about that I have a job in that neighborhood. Oh my gosh, this is a dangerous neighborhood. And I am building a building there, and I am going to just worry myself to pieces about it because
Yeah.
because that's anxiety. If you're
Yeah.
building a building in a tough neighborhood, do you put some extra guards on it? Do you put some extra lighting on it? That's good business. That's not anxiety. That's fact base.
Yeah.
And then when we go into, for what we're doing here with the purpose effect, anxiety is useless. It doesn't help us learn to be better,
Yeah.
where fear might, right? If you're one of our listeners and you've been struggling with a weight problem and you're struggling with diabetes, and you're afraid that if you don't change, if you don't work on your physical health, they're going to cut your toes off, or you're going to go blind, or the bad things that come with uncontrolled diabetes. That's not anxiety. That's
Yeah.
fact based fear. If you don't make changes, you will suffer consequences that all
Yeah.
humans suffer when we've let ourselves go to that point, right?
Yeah.
Anxiety is a perfectly healthy person going losing their mind and, oh my God, I'm gluten intolerant and I'm allergic to this and I can't do that. I can't do this, because they're so wound up on the fact that their uncontrolled grandparent went blind or lost a limb or something because they completely uncontrolled diabetes. Oh my God, now it's in my family. Now I'm going to, that's anxiety.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's that irrational fear. There's no real basis for it. Like I didn't have, and I would say even for me, like yesterday, it wasn't even, I live in a quiet little community. So it wasn't like I was afraid of somebody shooting me, or it wasn't even that. It was just, what happens if somebody sees me? There was no rationale to it at all. Like there
right.
nothing,
That,
it
and
was just, it came over and oh, and what I've learned in the process, like how do we then, so if we recognize the difference between anxiety and fear, now how do we work through it? And I think that's something that I've really been intentional on over the last couple of years, is working through that anxiety. Here's another example of a silly anxiety that I have, is going to get my oil changed at one of those drive-through oil change places. It's so stupid. Like I actually had to go get my oil changed and I put it off for 2 weeks. Why? Because I didn't want to drive through it. And what happens if I just turn the wheel and end up down? Like it was so stupid. There was no sense to it at all. But it was like, it was this really fearful thing. And it was causing crazy anxiety. So I didn't go get my oil. And you know what? I ended up coming up with a solution. I called Walmart and I just scheduled it and I just dropped it off. But then I did have to get my son's oil change on his car because he was at school. And I thought, you know what? I can do this. There's no reason for me to be fearful. There's no reason for me to have this anxiety come up. And I actually really, what I did is I walked myself through, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I can walk, it's fine. And I just drove right in and it was fine. And I've never had anything happen, but it is like this irrational fear that might come up, or what kind of, it's just, it's so silly, but it's actually, I think those that suffer, it's debilitating at times.
No, it's
So
really
it's like,
not.
how do we work through it?
It's not silly, really, actually. It's based on different things. You probably saw something somewhere once where someone, that
I have
one in
no
a
idea.
million, that one in a million mistake where someone got in that ditch in a thing. And with social media and the flip factor, you might have come across it out of the corner of your eye and not even recognized it, but it stuck with you because it's something that you do.
Yeah.
The social exposure anxiety is a whole series of podcasts,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially for female,
Yeah.
not in our society, not as, and you know what? I'm vain. I am bad. I care about the clothes I wear. I carry an extra shirt if I'm a pig at lunch and get a stain, I change. I care, right? So I get the, oh my gosh, I was just going down to buy grease at the auto shop. I don't want to talk to those people. I am dirty. But for a young woman in public, makeup, no makeup, wrong clothes, wrong hair, wrong. No, you're beautiful as you are at that moment. And in our society that expects you young women to always be prim and proper and or not, or the opposite, or always be loud and out there and dressed or messy, depending on what your impact is. I'm I'm thinking that the people who we disagree with, the ones who get out on cameras and yell and scream and will have a look that the blue hair and the I'm all of the stuff that I feel is just attention getting and not really based on it. It's got to be a lot of work for them too. Got to have an, what if they don't see me the way I want? It's
Yeah.
not about being seen or not being seen. It's about when you're walking from your car to the pharmacy, are the PTA moms who only know you as the girl who's got her business. I'm going to city school council meeting head
Yeah.
on and all that. Now they're going to see you in your pajamas walk into the pharmacy to get your kid a snot rag, right? And it's, oh, they only know me over here. They don't know me as a real mom who needs to go buy Kleenex.
Yeah.
So we have these irrational fears that are anxieties. And
Yep.
here's how I work through them. You know what? Yeah, I'm greasy and I'm dirty, but I'm proud of myself because instead of waiting for someone to come and fix whatever it is I'm working on, I'm just figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know what? If you see me dirty and you don't understand that I'm not a mechanic, it's not my forte, but I'm in there doing that because it needs to be done today. And I got YouTube and a friend on the phone. And if you're going to judge me because I'm smudged,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I
that's
think
on you.
don't you think it then comes back to like just how we feel about ourselves and like our, like just our identity and like our confidence or lack of, or like the insecurities that just want to, I think that goes back, it's the insecurities that want to rear their ugly head and just start giving us all these false narratives or these labels that are not accurate. And so I think then I look back and I have to go back to, who am I? What does God say about me? And that's one of the things, like even when I drove around, I say it was silly, not because it's silly in a sense of it doesn't make sense. If you've never experienced anxiety on a extreme level, it's hard to, it would look like, come on, Alesha, just park and walk in there. But so I drove around. And in the meantime, what I did is I had to really ground myself and say, wait a second, Alesha, why is this bothering you? Get your poop in a group and drive back over there and park and walk on in. But I had to do some self talking too to say, Alesha, who are you? You don't need to be worried about anything. Like this shouldn't overwhelm you. You are stronger than that. And I think for me, a big shift, and you even alluded to this too, is that powerful self-talk of what goes on in my head and what do I allow to play in there? Do I allow it to go, oh gosh, Alesha, you like, this is ridiculous. Geez, you can't even do this. And I just allow these negative thoughts to go. Or do I say, wait a second, hold on. I recognize what's going on. I'm going to stop it and I'm going to walk this out in boldness. And I like that shift for me over the last few years has really helped of speaking life to myself, of encourage myself, Alesha, you got this. You can do this, and not tearing myself down has been really powerful to do that. And it's shifted things for me.
So one of the things I'm gonna go back to some 12 step stuff and talk about a little bit about how this applies to more things in life than you might have thought. I've been through 12 step program and I'm very grateful for it. But the very first thing about this anxiety, about being able to change anxiety, is for us to be able to recognize that it's anxiety, right? Because if you're in the middle of it, if you're looking for that parking place and you look over there and the PTA moms, the judgmental girls, the Heathers or whatever that movie was, they're all staring over at you and you're like, no, I don't want to park here. Your irrational fear factor, this anxiety starts spinning it. What if they see me? And then what if they take a picture? And what if they put it on Facebook? And oh my God, what if it gets to Instagram? And then what if the girls in there? But we breed that, right? So if we go
Yes.
back to the 12 step program and we go, okay, now, first step, identify the need for change. So now the first step in this particular situation is going, okay, what am I getting out of this versus what am I giving up? I'm getting privacy maybe because I didn't do my hair, maybe a little bit of autonomy because I just don't want to walk through town and be noticed, right? Some days being popular and noticed and standing out is fun and rewarding and exciting and you get a big smile. And other times you just want to go buy your kids some Kleenex and go home. Anxiety comes in when those two things don't coincide, right? Your normal personality is to jump out of the Jeep and
Yeah.
wave to the Heathers and smile and jump
Yep.
into the pharmacy and talk to three people and then, you know, go about your business. But for whatever reason, this cycle of energy goes spiraling.
Yeah.
So comes back to the same steps, right? So you're going to identify need for change. You're going to take and do something to make that change. I always suggest deep breathing.
Yep.
Start to feel anxious, force 10 to 15 count in, hold for an equal amount of time, and then blow all of that same air out for that same 12 to 15 count. It'll feel like you're trying to push air that's not in your lungs out. If you do those 4 sets of 4, you will find that you can see it a little differently
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
And you can drive around the block and smile and go about your day and not let the spiral, because the women on the other side of the street really don't care that you're going to the farm,
Exactly.
right? It's all
Yep.
imaginary. That's
Yeah.
the anxiety versus fear. If that's a
Um,
snow plow that could hit your car and you don't want to get out right there, that's legit. That's fear, right?
yeah.
No parking sign. Don't park here. Snowplow will hit you. That's
Yeah.
legit. So identify, take some breaths, and work through it like you did. You talked yourself through it. You went, okay, wait a minute. This is silly. I need to go take care of this. There's nothing going on here. I don't know why. See, the irrational part is that we don't have a why,
Yeah.
right? If you
That's
have a
exactly it.
why,
There's no reason. Yeah.
if we have a why, then it's not irrational. Then
Yeah.
it's, oh, okay. I don't want to get out of the car over there because I'm in South Dakota and it's 1 degree and
Yeah.
I'm dressed in my pajamas without a hat on and my
Yeah.
ears will freeze and I will never, ever see my nose again, which never happens here, Southern California. See the bright
Hey,
sunshine.
it hardly happened here this year, just so you know. Like we had an insanely warm winter. We actually are getting some snow today, but it's weird. And I think so. I think there, for me, the other thing that I am learning is building up who I am and shifting things before I get to that anxiety. So let me see if I can explain it well. Like I do things every day when I wake up, I find things that I'm grateful for. Like I find, and so I'm shifting some of my foundational pieces of who I am so that the anxiety is not as overwhelming as it used to be either. So there's the in the moment, how do we walk it through? But I also think then there's this bigger picture of how do we just create a healthier lifestyle? Like how do we get it so anxiety's not, and I think there's quite a few components, but one is I think definitely having an attitude of gratitude is powerful. It keeps you focused. I think looking at our physical health and our gut health, that is super important. Like how much of our mental health stems from poor eating habits, poor gut health, and all that stuff. And we talk about that a lot of your gut's like your second brain. Most of your hormones are in there. So that plays a key part in helping that. The other thing that is really interesting, thinking of health and stuff, is those of us women, and there's a thing called menopause and perimenopause, just so you know, David. I don't know if Amanda, if you had to deal with any of this with her, but that
There is no good answer to that.
actually, I will tell you, there is actually there's 103 symptoms to perimenopause and menopause, and one of them is anxiety. So some of it actually is a chemical, like there's hormones and all this stuff out of whack that can be causing it. So there, I think there's a lot of different factors. So like I've been very intentional over the last couple of years of getting my body healthy. So like my anxiety attacks now are way like so far and few between and not very often. But I think that's another key component. The other one that's really powerful for me, and of course, you know me, I'm going to have to bring in some scripture into this whole thing. We can't have a podcast without talking about the Bible or God and Jesus and how amazing he is. But one of the other things that's really powerful for me is verses like 1 Peter 5:7, where it says to cast all of your cares on God, for he cares about you. And that includes our fears and our anxieties. And that's what, even yesterday, when I was driving around, I went, wait a second, God, give me the strength. And so casting our cares on him, going back to him on it and seeking him in it. So I've really been intentional in growing in my relationship with the Lord and grounding myself in who am I in him. And that has also really made a huge difference for me personally and my anxiety levels and even my depression. I have suffered from crazy severe depression on and off for the last 25 years. And it's only been in the last couple of years that I've not had any crazy episodes that it can be debilitating. And I really believe it stems from being grounded in the word, spending a lot more time knowing who I am in with what Jesus says I am, and then getting my health back. I think all those things have played a huge part. So those are like big picture things that I think people can be looking at, of not just in the moment, but how do you get it so it's not taking over your life all the time?
Okay, you just made an advertisement for the purpose effect. Because this is exactly it, folks. If we are making our spiritual health stronger, it affects as we bolster our spiritual health. Alesha and I both choose scripture and biblical study. It fills you up from inside. Then your emotional health is held up by this gift of grace, right? Because it's a gift. You don't got to earn it, right? We talked about my epiphany and my family history about this grace being a gift. It's not something that you can. And here's what I've learned in the last week: you can't earn it. If it wasn't a gift, none of us would be worthy, right? By taking and working on our spiritual health intentionally, we go into our emotional health, and it helps us adjust our perspective, because the strength that we have over here, we can now shift that over here and help us our perspective, right? So now I've used the example of living near the edge of the cliff, right? Where I'm just so stressed all the time that it just takes absolutely nothing to push me over and I have explosive episodes. I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm several steps from the cliff. Am I perfect? Oh, no. Am I better? Yes. The more that I work on my spiritual health, the easier it is for me to manage my emotional health. And then it snowballs because the cravings for comfort foods that we know are
Mhm.
bad for us decrease. The cravings for sugar, for this rush of pleasure, decrease because we're getting those needs met from places that are not unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? Dessert's something we should be saving for those occasions that we're enjoying it. If you live off dessert, you will be diabetic and obese.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean dessert's bad. Dessert's not bad. Overindulging in
Mhm.
unhealthy foods is bad.
Yeah.
I'll go further. Overindulging in unhealthy emotions is bad. Indulging
Mhm.
ourselves in our anxiety, which you and I both have said we experience, will lead to the depression that we both
Yes.
experience. So you don't really think about how it tightly, every little bit of this journey that we call life is woven together. It's like macrame. It all knots back into itself. And if the tension is overwhelming from any of these negative places, it distorts the positive. It pulls it out of whack.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was actually on a mental health awareness panel the other night. It was called Lift the Curtain. And it was such an amazing experience. I was just even blessed to be asked to be on it, and I got to share a lot of my story. And it was really powerful because that's one thing there's a huge amount of youth in the audience, which is really awesome. But I think it is one of those, like, going back to even you said it too, with our thinking, like, how often do we dwell on these things? How often do we let it consume us? And one of the most powerful things I'm learning is the power of really controlling my thoughts and allow it, like, not letting this spiral, I remember, especially when I was in just the dark depression, I would constantly think these horrible negative thoughts over and over again. And I'll tell you, it got worse and worse. And what I'm learning is the power of not doing that. And also that people recognize we have a choice in that. Like, you actually have a choice in how long do you dwell on your thoughts? Do you choose to stay in these negative thoughts or not? Now, if you have been giving into these negative thoughts for a very long time and it's just become your life, it is going to take some time and some work to dig through it. Like, it doesn't, God can come in and completely restore and just quick, like in a snap, change it. But for the most part, most of us, it's a process and we have to learn to walk through it. And so it's not one of those, oh, Alicia, it's so easy. I know it's not easy to change your thoughts if you've focused for so long on the negative and that's just become your way of life. But it's possible, and you have the choice to do it. And it's saying, I am not going to, if I have a negative thought that comes into my head, I'm not going to sit on it. I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, and just let it run. Oh, you are just the worst person, or you always make mistakes, or you're always going to be a failure, and you just keep going. It's nope, that thought comes in. That's not true. It's not accurate. And I move past it a lot quicker. And it's gotten a lot easier over the last couple of years. And I think that's another thing that's really contributed to not having such severe depression and anxiety too, is controlling those thoughts. Don't let them control you. We can control it. And that helps then control your emotions too. It's powerful.
The strength that comes from actually working on all of this, right? I talk about the 0.5%. Pick
Mhm.
one thing and work 0.5%. And that's valid. And better is good, right?
Yeah.
But when we're pushing ourselves and we're trying to be a 0.5% on all three of these legs that we're working on, or 1% better on all of these legs that we're working on, instead of getting harder, it actually builds on itself and it gets a little bit of a momentum and it gets easier. It's not what I would have expected
Yeah.
I'm still going through the same silliness with this one particular developer I'm working on. This gentleman just loves to shoot himself in the foot. By the time we get done with these buildings, he's not even going to have toes. He's just going to have a stump in his ankle.
Oh man.
But instead of me buying into that anxiety and me worrying about it, what
Yes.
if, oh my gosh, this is going to, that
Yes.
going to, now I'm just looking back and I'm going, gosh, buddy, I got some more band-aids over here, but doesn't your toe hurt?
Yeah.
I'm not owning his choices.
Yeah.
I'm not spinning on his anxiety. A lot of our anxiety is transferred. So let's go back to your parking anxiety as an example. I'm beating it up because it's nowhere near this bad, folks. She's really not that. My girl is not retarded. She's a little silly sometimes, but she really didn't bump her
I'll
head.
own the silliness.
But let's go back to that. So now, where does the anxiety come from if you're average young woman? You're not strong minded, you're not rich. Okay. So now the anxiety is okay, first of all, I'm going to present in public in a way that I don't necessarily want to. I'm going to be seen by people who are now going to compare me to the unrealistic life that all of us spend our 3 seconds flipping through on Facebook or Instagram or whatever your choice of unrealistic baloney is. Because there's very few of us that go publicly and talk as much about the tough days as we do the great days, right? Everybody posts the day they bought a new car, not the day the last one was repossessed because they overwent it and were a bit of an idiot and got into a situation they couldn't handle because they didn't think it through. And very few people post that embarrassing day. But when they figure it out and they can get a new car, and that's all over every social media platform. So now the anxiety is fed by our belief that what other people think has any value. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
If someone's going to think negatively of some young mom, because she's in her house clothes and a robe and she's running in the pharmacy to get something for her kid, and you're going to judge that how could she go out looking like that? You know what? Shame on you for being judgmental of someone who needs to take care of their kid. We don't see you running over there. I don't see, when I'm looking through Facebook, I don't see an open post of, hey, moms of Acton, I'm sitting around with nothing to do today. And if you don't feel good or Junior's not, shoot me a list and I'll run to the pharmacy for you.
Yeah.
So who's going to go get the kid the Kleenex and the cough syrup or whatever it is you need?
Yeah.
Mom. Mom doesn't need to think about in the back of her mind that someone is going to judge how she's being seen, because we live in this false, perfect world. So the anxiety is socially generated if you buy it.
Yeah.
As we lean into our spirituality, social norms mean less. As we become more socially secure and more emotionally secure, I'm going to exchange emotionally and socially, a little bit of an interchange there because they both affect us similarly.
Yes, I agree.
So now we take that expectation and we go, hey, you know what, folks? You can judge what you want. I'm a good mom. If you're not looking at me as a good mom first, then you're missing who I am.
Yeah.
Because mom duty for the great moms that I know, yourself included, and your mom, and all of the moms that I'm so blessed to have in my circle, you guys do the miracle, right? You suck it up. When we need something, you take care of us. That's the mom factor. And anybody who doesn't put that gift that we're given before we judge if your hair's done or not, the value of their opinion is of naught, right? It means nothing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's a powerful, I mean, and I think you have two great sides that you're showing. Is the one, we need to give grace to people. Like we just need to give, just I think, and just be genuinely kind and caring to people, because we don't know their situation. We don't know, yeah, are they coming in the pajama pants because they were up all night and they're a single mom and they're exhausted because their kid was sick and they got no sleep and I just need to go get medicine there and they're exhausted. And yet we get so judgy. And so I think having that grace and that kindness, because I think what happens too is then when we begin to understand that, it also helps us shift our perspective and we're not as judgmental, maybe even to ourselves, because we're going, wait, I'm going to give them grace. Now I need to give myself some grace on things too and have that level of understanding for ourselves, but also it does go back to creating a lifestyle of also living with intention and purpose. And when we understand how that is such an important part of living, I think, a healthy and successful life, in order to do that, you have to deal with these things. You have to deal with anxiety in a sense of not letting it consume you, but how do you address it? How do you combat it and deal with it and not just avoid it? Because I think then that's the other thing is sometimes we just want to avoid it and then it just rears its ugly head and then we're like, now what? But let's deal with it, dig to the root cause of things and just take it deeper and be more intentional with things. And I would hope that our listeners understand that while we're talking about like the anxiety and stress and how to walk through just these little practical steps, I really want them to grasp the big picture that we keep hitting on. People, we want you to look at then the big picture of how do you just become a healthy person? And that's growing in your spiritual life, that's growing in your health and all that. It's such an important thing. And those little changes, like you said, David, the 1%, you guys, it's worth it because I think that truly is what we are doing here, David, is you and I are walking it out every day. Okay, I'm working through it. I'm working through it. I'm getting better at it. Ooh, I had a setback yesterday or whatever. I'm going to work through it today. And we keep going and we're not, it can be hard, but man, it's worth it. It's so worth it, worth the shift.
When when you and I, Alesha, started this, when we were sitting in your dining room, and we talked about how divided people are. And I won't even say our country, I will say people,
Mhm.
right? Societies of all around the world. Everybody is completely focused on I'm red, you're blue. I'm pro this group, you're pro that group. I have to hate you. We can't.
Yeah.
We focus, the media focuses everybody on the things that we have different. The places you go, businesses, I can't shop at this store because you like that. I can't eat at this restaurant because they support. Oh my goodness gracious. But what we're doing here and what we talked about that very first meeting when we dreamed this whole thing came together is to focus on what we have in common. And every single human on this planet needs to work on their spiritual health.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
If you're a Catholic and you believe that the Pope is the most pious person in the entire world, I will bet you $1,000,000 if you could sit down and have a conversation with a person who attained that, they would tell you that they need to learn more every single day. We all do. If you're
Yeah.
a fresh Christian who got saved 9:03 this morning, which was 1 minute ago, according to my clock, you have more to learn. And if you've been in your spiritual journey since you were a child, you have more to learn. Everybody's emotional health could be bolstered. We all have that little spot that's not good. Some of us have giant spots that we can
Yeah.
work on, but I don't care how good you get, you can always find that thing that we all need to be better.
Yep.
Physically, you can be the healthiest person in the world. Drop it for a month. Quit exercising and eating well for 1 month and watch how quickly that changes. Watch how
Yeah.
soon you need to work on that again.
Yeah.
Every single person on this planet, everybody who sucks air into their body and breathes it back out needs to do that. Every one of us has that in common. That's what's important. And if you're working on that, you're welcome in my life. If you're trying to be a better human being And if I don't agree with some of the practices that you choose to do, let's discuss it. Let's have a healthy conversation and understand each other better. And maybe we agree to disagree about certain things.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can't have the common factors of working together, making ourselves better. If I'm making myself better and the people in my circle see that and they appreciate it, and they in turn want some of this, they want that 0.5%, they want that 1%. And your circle of people, we're in different states. Your circle of people notice what we're doing, they work on themselves. And then my circle of people are working at the airport at LAX, and your circle of people come through on a vacation, and all of a sudden we've got nicer people helping nicer people in our everyday life.
And it just
That's
keeps
what
going.
the purpose effect is about.
Yes.
Because every single one of us, if we're just a little better and a little bit nicer, and we agree that we have more in common than we have that separates us, then every little bit of energy that we put into this is more valuable than I could put.
Yeah. That's awesome, David. I think you nailed it. I think that is a great way to probably wrap up this episode.
And that being said, if what we do here speaks to you, gives you something, show us a little love. Reach down, give us a subscribe, share with your friends, but most importantly, be a part of the community. Join us, because we are the Purpose Effect.